Hello everyone, I'm making this video to give you a quick review, a spoiler-free review of the DLC I just finished, the latest DLC of Dragon Age Inquisition called Jaws of Hakkon. It is available right now in your Origin application. It costs €15 on my end, what I assume is $15 for you out there who have dollars as your default currency. I will be making a complete spoilery review, but that will be after I finish my walkthrough. My walkthrough should be featured on the top right corner if you're watching this video the next day. And for now, let's begin. First, bear in mind, when I say bear in mind, that's funny. I'm not going to tell you why it's funny because I'll spoil the DLC, but bear in mind that the bulk of this DLC, what I assume is perhaps 95% of its content, is presented in the form of open world missions. It's more like those open areas like the Hinterlands and the Follow Mire and the Emerald Graves and so on. The content isn't bad, but I know many people are not into that kind of thing. Just be aware that if you're one of those people, this might not be a DLC for you and you might regret spending $15 on it. Otherwise, I enjoyed it. It took me about 4 hours to complete everything. The first 1/3 was getting a little confusing. There were a lot of names mentioned about people that are not essential, and I was getting to a point where I was beginning to forget what's happening and getting confused, but towards the middle and especially towards the end, it got really interesting and I definitely enjoyed it. After I finished it, because the best of it was put in the end, it was getting progressively more and more interesting and had a nice culmination. I'm left with this very nice feeling after playing it. The story itself, without spoiling it, it's not very essential to the overall events in the game. Now, I played it with a save that was after the events of the game, after I had finished it. I will probably go and replay it again with a save midway through the game. I'm curious to see what will happen if Solus is there. I imagine he might have some interesting impact in this DLC, some interesting comments. Companions do have new banters. They have lines, they comment on your choices and on what's happening, so you will not feel the lack of voice acting. That's a very good point of this DLC, even though there are just a couple of cutscenes really, there is plenty of voice acting. If you're the kind of person who is interested into the lore of Dragon Age, this DLC does reveal some quite interesting things about the old Inquisition and about the previous Inquisitor, and some things turn out to be not the way we thought they were. There are some very emotional and powerful moments and funny moments and two big battles. There's a dragon battle and there's another one. The dragon battle was surprisingly hard, to be honest, at least for me. Now, my overall thoughts, the $15 mark is somewhat problematic. If the DLC had been priced at $10, I would probably be okay with it, but for $15 I'm not quite sure. Now, 4 hours, if you compare it to, say, Mass Effect DLCs, it is a decent time, but if you compare it to the overall game, it definitely doesn't offer 1/4 of what the game has to offer. So that was it. If you're interested in enriching the lore of Dragon Age, learning more about the new Inquisition, about how things stood back there, and go through something that will change the way you see some things in the Dragon Age universe, then I definitely recommend this DLC. But if you're the kind of person who is looking for DLC that will somehow change the overall plot, that will have effects on what happens later in the game, that will add replay value to the game, and that is rich in cutscenes, and that maybe has additional conversations with companions or adds new romance, that's not gonna happen. So pick and choose carefully. That was it for now. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for my walkthrough and my full review. Until then, be good.